Okay. I think we're good. I think we're live. Let's see here. Coming at you in about a minute, and I'll get started. So many windows open. Okay. All right, we're good to go. All right, I'm going to share my screen now. Excellent. Okay, we're off to the races. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today for this presentation. I'm going to take care of the technical stuff first. This is the second time I've done this live stream. So I am live streaming from Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube at the same time. And the first time I did it, there was a delay. So I could not see people's comments or questions in Facebook or YouTube while I was doing the live stream. So I'm going to check on it again. Hopefully it's like jacked it up and it's worked out all of its coordination things. And if you have any questions and you're on the Facebook stream, feel free to put your questions in the comments there, and I'll check every few minutes and see what I can see. If you're on the Zoom, you can put questions in the chat and I can see those for sure. If I don't get to your questions during the presentation, I'll go back afterwards and I'll look through them, and then I'll create a separate little video to answer your questions tomorrow or Tuesday. Okay, so today we are here to talk about pain, how your brain can cause you pain, and the 3-pillar approach to getting relief. I'm Jennifer Houghton, and oh yeah, questions. If you have any questions, you can also send them to me at the email on the screen here, jenniferbountifulyoga@gmail.com. The Facebook page is Soul Work, Yoga, and Wellness with Jennifer Houghton, and the group is A Body Wrapped Up in a Soul. So we're here today to talk about, get into understanding the origins of pain and how understanding the origins of pain can help with recovery and management of pain and anxiety. And that pain could be coming from any potential causes. It could be coming from an injury, it could be from surgery, it could be from an accident, it could be from a condition or a disease, it could be from a wound, either emotional or a physical wound. And it could also be from trauma. And I use these techniques I'm going to talk about later on. I use them to help recover from the trauma that I experienced over the past few years. Some of you may have seen the posts that I made on Facebook and seen my emails. I experienced flooding. My house was flooded 3 out of 4 years, and then the city expropriated it. And so my life was turned upside down. And I have taught Mindbody practices for 30 years. I started out teaching fitness, and then I got into yoga, which led to meditation and guided imagery and developing my own breath work. And when I hit age 50, that's when the flooding hit my house. I had already made a decision that I was going to, when I hit 50, I was going to be the healthiest I'd ever been. And I did the work. So I did the exercise, I did all of the mind body stuff, I was eating clean. And I think if I hadn't been in that state, I wouldn't have gotten through it so well. But then what happened after a few years, after the hit after hit after hit, is I started to forget myself. And I started to forget to do those things that kept me alive, that kept me going, that kept me strong. And I sank really low. And there were times when I felt incredibly isolated, incredibly alone. And I realized that the way to come out of that was to start to do these practices again. that I could be self-sufficient, that I could take care of myself. And in doing these things, I started to come out of the trauma. And I had a pain that had developed in my lower right, my lower back on the right side that I never had before. And I know that was from the trauma. So what we're going to be doing this month is a lot of these practices: guided imagery, meditation, and breath work. Today's presentation is just that, a presentation. The other sessions are going to be experiential. This one is just me sharing some information with you. And it's a lot of information from science. It's a very sciencey presentation today. So you can just sit back and absorb. And there will be a recording available, so you don't have to take notes. So I want to say right from the start that the practices that I'm going to be talking about later on, they have to be done regularly in order for you to see a difference in your pain. Your pain didn't develop overnight. It's not going to go away overnight. The bonus is that when we do these mind-body practices, they in themselves are joyful. It's a pleasure to do them. So the science. Today, I'm going to be talking about the nervous system and pain, and the communication between the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerve cells. So when I say nervous system, that's what I'm talking about. Brain, spinal cord, nerve cells, otherwise known as neurons or nerves. And I'm going to provide information for people with persistent pain and techniques on how to manage it and reduce it. So when we're talking about persistent pain, we're talking about pain that's lasted 3 to 6 months or longer. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh, Puddin', I am a pro at pain. I have had this for a decade. All right, so we're going to be addressing that. And that pain might persist well beyond the course of an acute disease or after tissue healing is complete. So maybe you're going to the doctor after you've had an accident or you've recovered from surgery and you're like, hey doc, you know, it still hurts. Why does it still hurt? And he's looking or she's looking and going, I don't see any reason here. We've done all the tests. It looks like the soft tissue should be healed. So why do you still have pain? Well, that's the question we're going to explore today. Right, so the mind-body techniques that are the answer here, they enhance communication between the mind and the body. And we can actually influence that communication. It's not something that always has to happen automatically underneath our consciousness. We can bring it to our consciousness. Our thoughts, our moods, and our emotions and our attitudes play a role in pain and anxiety. Those two things are connected. Pain feeds anxiety, anxiety feeds pain. We can influence the communication that's happening there. And when I'm talking about mind-body practices, I'm talking about the ones that I mentioned that we're going to be doing this month: guided imagery, meditation, breath work. It also includes yoga, tai chi, qigong, massage. Could also be tapping or EFT, music therapy, mantras, and prayer. Prayer can be a form of mind-body therapy as well. Now, these mind-body practices differ from modern medicine because they raise our self-reliance. And you can do medicine that you need to do, that you feel is right for you, and this can be an adjunct to what you're doing with your doctor. When somebody has pain and you're doing these mind-body techniques, your self-reliance increases. These techniques are self-applied. You don't have to refer to anybody else. They cultivate independence and they're adaptable. So wherever you're at in your journey, and it is a journey, you can adapt it. You can practice them alone, or you can practice them in a group, and practicing in a group kind of feeds into it. You feed into each other's energy when you're doing this with other people. Quite often, if you come into this situation and you're on a medication, you may find that after you've been doing it regularly, you can go to your doctor and you can say, look, doc, I think we need to adjust my medication. these mind-body practices are making a difference. So I'd like to work with you, Doc, to change my medication. Most of the time, these practices have no negative side effects unless you're doing the wrong kind of yoga. And we'll talk about that later. And they give more energy than they take. So these practices will give you a sense of independence and control over what's happening to you. And increased confidence leads to increased calm. And that helps to overcome feelings of helplessness. And we all know that anxiety worsens pain. So there's a correlation between the level of anxiety and the level of pain. People who are dealing with chronic pain have 3 issues that you're dealing with. 1 is a problem with your body. 2 is a problem with your nervous system. So that's your brain, your spinal cord, and the nerves. And 3 is the emotional responses that are conjoined to both of the above. So mind-body techniques help with this because they have a calming and soothing effect in the body and the nervous system. When someone has been dealing with persistent pain, the nervous system goes into a state of hypersensitivity or hyperexcitability. And when you calm your mind and your body, you can help to take your nervous system out of that state of hyperexcitability. All right. Oh, I just said that. All right. So, true or false? Is pain always an accurate indication of what's happening in your body? I'm going to tell you a little story. This is a story, it's a true story. It's been passed from teacher to student, but it's true. And it's about a guy named Alan. So Alan was a middle-aged man, and he's driving along in his car one night on the highway. It's a beautiful night. The weather is great. The windows are open. He's got his arm dangling out, feeling the wind. And then he sees a car approaching, and the lights are swerving all over. And all of a sudden, it hits him. He's hit by this car, and his car goes off the embankment. The other car takes off. Next thing Alan knows, he's waking up, he's coming to, and he smells gasoline. And the first thought that goes through his mind is, I got to get out of here. The car's going to explode. If I don't get out of here right now, I'm going to die. So he manages to get himself out of the car and starts to scramble up the embankment. And as he's scrambling up the embankment, he looks down and he sees that his arm is missing from the elbow down. This is the first time he's noticed it. So he looks around, finds the arm, picks it up, goes to the top, and is sitting on the side of the road waiting for help to come. The car explodes. Help comes, an ambulance, the police. Now, this is what really happened. I don't know if it's true or not. The police officer approaches Alan and says to Alan, you need some help. Can I give you a hand? And Alan goes, no, but I can give you a hand. So anyways, they take Alan to the hospital. And when he gets to the hospital, that's when he goes into shock. So up until this point, he's been totally with it. So is pain always an accurate indication of what's happening in your body? Think about this question and these ones as we go through. Is it true that pain occurs whenever you're injured? Does chronic pain mean an injury is not healed properly? So what is pain? And all the elements of this sentence are equally important. Pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience. So it happens in our body, we feel it in our senses, but it's also an emotional experience. And it's associated with actual or potential tissue damage. So it could be real tissue damage and it could be potential tissue damage. Now, what's the function of pain in our system? or sorry, rather, what's the function of our pain system? I'm going to refer to this as our pain system. Well, it's a protective mechanism. It also indicates damage or potential damage, and it responds to warnings. So some examples of this: if something's flying by you, what happens in your body? You tense up, your muscles tense. So that's your pain system making your muscles tense and making you sit still if there's some danger flying around you. So that's an example of the pain system at work. Let's say there's this rocky path that you've walked on a regular basis, and you've twisted your ankle a couple of times already on that path. As you're approaching that path, your muscles in your body start to tense, sending you a signal. There's danger coming up. If you've had a tooth pulled and you've experienced pain at the dentist, maybe your body tenses up as you're approaching the dentist's office. So that's your pain system. It's warning you. It's indicating there might be damage coming up. You know, is there anybody out there? Like, maybe there's some people who've been out there and you've always had great experiences at the dentist, but there's a lot of people who are in the dentist chair and it's like, oh, everything's tensing up. So that's your pain system telling your muscles to tense up. Something bad is about to happen. Or like me, if you have extreme motion sickness on an airplane. The last time I flew, I had the worst motion sickness I've ever had. And there's contractions happening in my gut that are incredibly painful, and they were making me vomit. And so now all it takes for me to feel that again is to hear the sound of an airplane engine on TV. And I start to feel that way. I start to feel nauseous. My stomach starts to clench. The pain system is the way that the body reacts to help us survive. And when the pain system is functioning properly, those pain sensations are a warning that protects us from damage. That clenching, that tensing, it's protecting us from damage or potential damage. All right, so here's a picture of a nerve cell, a neuron. And again, when we're talking about the brain, the spinal cord, nerve cells, neurons, and also an important element in the pain system is neurotransmitters or chemical messengers. So these little nerves send chemicals to and from each other, up and down, from the brain to the spinal cord to the neurons, from the neurons up the spinal cord to the brain. So chemical messengers and electrical charges are exchanged between these neurons to send the signals. Now, when our nervous system or our pain system is functioning normally, and we experience tissue damage, this is what happens. First of all, it takes a lot of force or pressure to make the reaction start to happen. So physical force or pressure, chemical irritants, extreme temperatures of hot or cold. And when that's extreme enough, the neuron gets excited. Chemicals are released from broken cells. The neurons are excited. The neurons sense this and they send messages to other neurons. And then the chemicals and an electrical charge are the things that are sending those messages. And the messages go up the chain to the brain. And then the brain sends back the appropriate response. It tells the body what to do to protect you from damage or further damage. So you're reaching out to a flame, it's just a small flame. The body's gonna signal you to jerk back your hand, and it happens like that, right? And it happens underneath our consciousness. It's the automatic or autonomic nervous system. Whereas if you're reaching out or standing close to like a giant bonfire, your brain is gonna send a different message to the brain. It's gonna say, whole body step back, not just the hand, because that heat is extreme. So normally, neurons of the pain system require a lot of excitement before they send a message to the brain. And under normal circumstances, when your pain system is functioning properly, when tissues have been undamaged, there's no chronic pain, regular touch doesn't send signals to the brain. It doesn't send pain signals to the brain. So normally a small amount of force won't excite the danger neurons enough to transmit a pain signal to the brain. But let's give an example. So let's say you've got a sunburn. You got a really bad sunburn. There's tissue damage there already. Someone touches you. How do you react? How do you react when someone touches you? Normal touch is being interpreted as a danger. So your pain signals get intensified. All those messages are intensified, and your brain goes, stop, get away from me. Your brain goes, tell that person to get away, right? All right. Now, so these danger sensors, these neurons, usually detect things that are potentially dangerous. But when our nervous system has become hypersensitive from years of chronic pain, sometimes things that aren't dangerous are misinterpreted as dangerous, and the body sends a pain signal to the brain. People with fibromyalgia, that's a condition where pain signals are being misinterpreted. Normal touch can be interpreted as intense pain when you have a condition like fibromyalgia, and there's other conditions where that happens as well. So once again, a normal pain system. So you're sitting there, you're the yoga lady or yoga man, you're meditating, got your palms up, your eyes are closed. Some well-intentioned person comes along, puts a steaming hot cup of coffee on your hand, right? So the neuron sense damage or potential damage. They send a message to the brain. The brain sends a message to the body about how to respond. How's the body going to respond? Well, it's going to flip that coffee out of your hand. And this is just sort of like an example of what can happen in life. Like I was going along, feeling just fine. And all of a sudden, the universe sent me some danger in the form of water flowing through my house. So my being reacted like, right? Danger, danger. Now, some of the things, we're going to get deeper into this science here and the things that are happening in the body when the danger system is activated. So your heart rate will go up. Your skin might go pale, or it might get flushed, depending on maybe what your genetic heritage is. I always flush. You'll start to sweat. You may experience muscle tension or muscle weakness when your danger system is activated, whether it's activated for something real or something perceived. Your senses might be heightened. You might experience dizziness or nausea. You might move away. There might be increased blood flow to the limbs. We're going to go into that more when we're talking about fight or flight. You might scream or groan. Sometimes even when there's not a serious danger, we might scream. When I lived in the Kootenays in BC, I was living on the side of a mountain. I'll use that as an excuse. I opened my fridge one day and a mouse jumped from the bottom shelf to the top shelf. I screamed. Here's the other thing that happens when our danger system is activated. Things are happening in the mind or the brain. We start to think about future implications or the memory of the last time this happened. So this is where the brain starts to get involved even more. Now, the brain has an influence on the intensity of the pain that is felt. Danger signals from your body are always modified by signals from your brain. Once you've looked at an injury and you've decided that the problem isn't so bad, your brain can tell your nervous system that it doesn't need to pay attention anymore. So let's look at two examples. Let's say you're sitting at home and you're using some tiny little manicure scissors to cut hangnails off your fingers, and you accidentally cut your finger with those manicure scissors. And you know that those manicure scissors are clean rather, and you're at home and you can just pour a little bit of hydrogen peroxide on the wound, or you can rinse it with clean water and dry it off and then put a bandage on it. Compare that to you're out in the world and you're in some unhygienic, unsanitary situation and you cut your finger on a rusty tin can. And your brain goes, oh my God, I could get an infection from that. And not only that, but I don't have anything to clean it off with. So which of these things are you going to experience more pain from? The cuts are the same, the depth is the same. Is it the clean manicure scissors where you've poured on the hydrogen peroxide, or the rusty tin can where there's potential for infection? Is your brain going to send a signal that this one hurts more or this one hurts more? Which has a more potential for danger? So your brain might send messages to your spinal cord telling neurons there to release more or less danger chemicals, depending on what kind of perception your brain is taking in. The visual information, past experiences, and knowledge can cause pain to increase or decrease. Information from the body is not the only information the brain is processing in order to decide how much pain to feel. The brain can modulate the intensity of the pain that you're feeling. So again, is it true or false? Is the degree of pain that you're feeling always an accurate indication of the damage that you sustained? And the answer is false. So the degree of pain that you're feeling is not always an accurate indication of the actual damage that your body has sustained. Now, why would your brain do this? Why does it modulate the intensity of the pain? If it's really dangerous, you'll need more protection. So your nervous system sends more danger signals to the brain. This way, your brain can produce even more responses to protect you. The nervous system adapts when it thinks you need more protection and when you don't. We're going to come back to that, but for a moment, we're going to talk about fight, flight, or freeze. I'm just going to call it fight or flight for the sake of ease, but we all know what that means. When we're faced with a physical danger, when we were evolving in the wild, we needed fight, flight, or freeze. When the saber-toothed tiger was there about to attack us, we needed to be mobilized. Our sympathetic nervous system had to be mobilized. We had to have stronger muscles, faster muscles. We needed to move quickly. And when that happens, our parasympathetic nervous system gets deprioritized. So parasympathetic is digestion, sleep, rest, reproductive organs. So when we've gone into fight or flight, we've got blood and energy and resources flowing to our arms and our legs. And that leaves fewer resources for other behaviors. So in fight or flight, our digestion will slow down. Our bladder might relax. We don't have anything going to our reproductive organs. Speech might not be working because you ain't going to talk that saber-toothed tiger out of attacking you. You don't need to be able to talk in that moment. You're not going to need to sleep. Your breathing rate will increase. Your breath will become shallower. You'll breathe into your chest and you'll do mouth breathing. And your body will also create hormones it needs. In modern life, we call them stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. So when we're faced with an immediate threat, a physical danger, those things are necessary. The problem is in modern life, we're not often faced with those things. And if we are faced with threats like money problems, problems with your boss, family arguments, uncertainty about the future, we don't get to shake it off either. So out in the wild, if a deer is being chased by a cougar or a coyote and it manages to get away, what it will do is it will literally shake its body. It'll shake it off. And I see my dogs doing this all the time. Like the other day, I accidentally bonked Bella, who's a big dog. I bonked her on the head with the door as we were coming in, and it was a hard noise. But she just shakes her head and off she goes. So animals are shaking it off. We don't get to shake it off. If you're sitting in your office and your boss comes up and starts hassling you and it's really stressful for you, you cannot reach into your drawer, pull out a club and start swinging it. And you're also not likely to run down the hall, right? So we don't get to expel that energy that's built up in our bodies. And it does build up. And our beings react physiologically to emotional stress the same way we react to physical danger. So all that slew, that whole complex of fight or flight things, it's happening in our bodies when we're having emotional stress. And in modern life, we end up being in a chronic state of fight or flight. The good news is, and I'll talk about this in a few minutes, we do have some control over it. And the thing that we do have control over in a big way is breathing, and also what's happening in our minds. Right, so when fight or flight reactions persist, pain increases. When pain increases, the pain system stays wound up. Less danger signals are needed for you to feel pain. Persistent, let's go back here. Let's go through what's happening when your pain system becomes hyperexcited, when it stays wound up, when it's gone into overdrive, when you're constantly in that state of fight or flight or chronic pain. Your nervous system has become hypersensitive. It's become hyperexcitable. And this is why pain is increasing instead of decreasing. Your body, your nervous system has learned to produce these reactions. It gets really good at producing these reactions. So it's like any skill that you learn. If you're practicing shooting hoops, the more you practice, the better your body and your mind get at it. The more you practice being in a state of pain, even though you're not doing it on purpose, the more you're in that state of pain, the better your body gets at reproducing that state of pain. So into the nitty gritty, let's go down into the weeds of what's happening here. So your pain system is detecting smaller problems and sending more than normal signals. So less stimulation is needed to create a pain response. So instead of a real big impact, it might be like a moderate impact, and the pain response is being produced. Neurons are misinterpreting normal touch as dangerous. Neurons are getting excited with less stimuli. Your body starts to build more of those sensors at the end of the nerve cell there, those sensors, more sensors are built where pain is persisting. So wherever that spot is in your body. More sensors mean that more chemicals are detected. So those pain chemicals. Now let's talk about the brain map. So more of your brain is paying attention to the painful area. That affects your ability to contract and relax muscles. So sometimes when people have chronic pain, their muscles might spasm. And that's not a muscle problem, that's a problem with the pain system. You also might feel pain in parts of the body where there's nothing wrong. And that's because the brain map is confused. So that's the same thing that happens when you get brain freeze from eating or drinking something really cold. It's like, well, the cold is in my mouth. Why am I feeling it in my forehead? And that's because your brain map has gotten confused. Your brain can't figure out where the pain signals are coming from. It's a confused message. And last but not least, when your body's gone into that hypersensitive state, your pain system's in overdrive, your brain is producing more hormones that increase stress reactions and inflammation. Dang it. Inflammation, more chemicals producing inflammation. So the good news. Before I get to the good news, I'll just summarize. Persistent pain changes the way the neurons in the pain system work. And it can change how easy it is to excite neurons and how the neurotransmitter system works. Good news is, all of this can be reversed. Oh! Your nervous system learns and adapts. And if it can be trained to overreact, it can be changed back to normal. You have the power to learn to pay more attention to pain or pay less attention to pain. You have the power to change how your nervous system reacts to stimuli. You can change neural connections. The nervous system is malleable. You can take advantage of the fact that the nervous system is malleable and adaptable. And that doesn't mean that if there's a real danger, you're not going to react to it. It just means that you can stop the overreacting and put things back to normal. And we put things back to normal by going into the relaxation response. So that's our parasympathetic nervous system at work. Breathing slows down. We're breathing through our mouth instead of through our, in the relaxation response, we're breathing through our nose rather than through our mouth. I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. In the relaxation response, our heart rate is slowing down. Blood and nutrients are flowing to internal organs and keeping them healthy and functioning. Muscles are relaxing. New neural pathways are created in the brain. So instead of traveling down that super highway of worry and stress and anger and hatred and negativity, we start to create new neural pathways where we're moving into peace and ease and joy. Our body starts to produce more inhibitory neurotransmitters. So the inhibitory neurotransmitters are endorphins. That stops us from going into that excited state. Serotonin, relaxation, inhibitory neurotransmitters. And our digestion will function better too when we're in that relaxed state more often. And plasticity of the nervous system. This is where our mind-body techniques come in, take us into that relaxation state. Let's start with this one. Let's start by talking about the sensor cells. So the pain sensor cells in our pain system are replaced every 3 to 4 days. And when our body is wound up, the replacement cells are those extra sensitive ones. And when the body is relaxed and calm, the replacement cells are normal. And the more you're in a calm state, the more the body has an opportunity to replace the cells with normal cells. Let's talk about brain chemistry. So the more you're in a relaxed state, the more your body is producing those endorphins. I just mentioned that endorphins block danger signals. Laughter, happiness, fun, joy, relaxation, exercise produces endorphins. Mindfulness. So when we start to pay attention mindfully to our pain, we can start to discern. We can notice the emotional response. We can notice if this is a response that our body needs to have a danger reaction to or not. We become mindful of what's happening in our body. We become mindful of what's happening with those signals. Breathing as well. Mindful breathing helps to calm the nervous system. We can deliberately determine what emotions we want to feel around particular stimuli. Someone touches me, what do I want to feel here? I'm going to be mindful of it. Now, here's that 3-pillar approach to getting relief. I chose the word pillar. I'm not sure if pillars is the appropriate word. It might be more like a 3-pathway approach to getting relief because it's a journey. It took a long time for your body to get into that state of chronic stress, chronic anxiety, chronic pain. It's not going to disappear overnight. It's going to take some practice and it's going to take some time. Doing these mind-body practices regularly and consciously, returning to the relaxed state. So pathway number 1, physical movement. And that could be exercise, which is producing endorphins, and it has to be the right exercise for you. Yoga. I'm going to talk more about yoga in a second. So the right yoga and movements for where you're at right now, and it should meet you where you're at. It should move along with your evolution and your journey. We can manage the brain-body messaging. So when we're practicing getting into a state of relaxation, guided imagery, meditation, breath work, fun, joy, we're managing the brain-body messaging. Cultivating heart opening is another pathway to moving into the relaxation response and managing pain. State of relaxation cultivates heart opening and vice versa. Ever been in love? So you know Nothing phases you when you're in love because your body is producing endorphins like crazy when you're in love. Nothing bothers you. Pain, don't matter. You're in love. It's those endorphins. Yogi. Back to yoga. So we're doing physical yoga and we're holding our muscles in a long stretch. There's messages that are going on between the brain and the body. And the brain perceives that the body is relaxing. So it sends more relaxation messages out to the body. When the mind senses the body is successful at relaxing, the mind relaxes and messages get sent and so on. And this positive feedback loop develops. The brain learns by observing what the body is doing. Putting your body into a relaxed state will help the brain relax too. We're literally training our brain to relax when we do yoga stretching. So more about getting into this relaxation response using mind-body techniques. Breathwork is something that we're going to be doing through the month of April. When we get into the fight or flight response, we start breathing in the upper chest. We're breathing quickly and we're breathing through the mouth. And what's happening if you start to do that intentionally and you're not in danger is your body and your brain are going to go, oh, wait, there's an emergency right now, because that breathing signals an emergency. That fast upper chest mouth breathing signals that there's an emergency. So we shift it and we do deep, slow breathing. So remember that whole slew of things that happens when you're in fight or flight, all of this stuff, blood, heart rate, stress hormones. I don't know about you, but I can't say to my body, don't put blood into the muscles of the arms and the legs. Don't produce stress hormones. I'm not that much of a developed yogi yet. Maybe when I'm 90, I'll be able to do those things. But right now, the thing that I do have control over is my breathing. So we'll go back here. Long, slow, deep breathing through the nose can help take your body into a relaxation state and signal that there is no emergency, that everything is all right. Breathing into the lower lobes of the lungs, that's also a signal that the body can relax. There's more capillaries in the lower lobes, so the body is also getting more oxygen. More oxygen to the muscles leads to relaxation, and it also decreases the amount of fatigue that you're going through. I already talked about breathing through the nose and not an emergency. Breathing through your mouth will also change your blood pH. It changes it. So when you do the nose breathing, it balances out your blood pH as well. Meditation. When we do meditation, we are reducing activity in the sympathetic nervous system. So that's the mobilizing nervous system. And we're increasing activity in the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's your rest nervous system, digestion, sleep, internal organs. Guided imagery is another thing that we're going to focus on quite a bit over the month of April. So what is guided imagery? So in guided imagery, we're using words that stimulate the right side of your brain. So we use visual, auditory, and kinesthetic imagery, so including feel, touch, and smell. Train your brain to go into relaxation mode. And then the brain can start to modulate the intensity of the pain that you're feeling through guided imagery. We're going to be doing some heart opening imagery. And we know that peace can be found in an open heart. The other thing is that heart-based imagery can slow our brain waves and bring them into coherence with the pace of our breathing and with the oscillations of energy in our bodies. I'm going to read a little quote from this book that has to do with the oscillations of energy in our bodies. We are energy beings. We are a vibration cleverly disguised as solid matter. And these energies oscillate at particular frequencies. So this is a quote from a book by Belruth Nabersteck, who has spent a lot of time studying guided imagery, practicing guided imagery. She's a psychologist. So she says, so now we've come full circle from the psychological notion that a loving heart can expand the boundaries of the ego. The ideas of theoretical physics that we live in a universe with no boundaries, dwelling in a sea of seamless, vibrating energy, alive and pulsing with omniscient, non-local, and infinite intelligence. Our bodies are oscillators, and they are internally and externally synchronized into a coherent, resonating system, and they can consciously connect with large chunks of this universal intelligence. Research finds that meditation is a powerful tool for consciously achieving this coherence. And one of the most powerful forms of meditation is imagery that generates a loving heart. So we're changing the frequencies of our energy. And we've got brain waves that are oscillating at a particular frequency. Our breath has a frequency, our heart rate has a frequency, and we're bringing all of those frequencies into coherence when we're practicing heart-based imagery. So heart-centered imagery is a meditative tool used to produce a heart-centered state. And we use it to call upon and generate feelings of love. All right, summarize. All these mind-body practices reduce pain. They enhance communication between the brain and the nervous system, the brain and the body. They enhance our thinking. They help with emotional modulation. They help bring about coherence of energetic oscillations. And some of the outcomes, besides reducing pain, is we get better sleep, we stress less, we eat better, and we reduce anxiety. And the effects get stronger the more they're done. And I found that the more focus and the more attention that you put towards these things, the better you get at changing your nervous system, the more results that you're going to get. So motivation is critical for changing the nervous system. And that's why I wanted to present this information to you today, was to help motivate you. Because some people find that when they understand the mechanisms, when they understand the details of what's going on in their body, it motivates them to make these changes. Because maybe you're not always motivated to do the meditation or to do the yoga or to do the guided imagery. And when we understand these things, it can increase our motivation. So through the month of April, here's what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be doing some breath work, some guided imagery, more breath work, more guided imagery, more meditation and more breath work. And they're at different times of day, different days of the week, to give an opportunity for you to join live. It's all free. You can access it through that Facebook. The name of that page is wrong. It's actually Soul Work, Yoga, and Wellness with Jennifer Houghton. That's the Facebook page. You can also join the work group, which is a body wrapped up in a soul. And if you can't join the live, you can watch the recording. So you can join that way. And here's what I'm doing here. I'm offering this free for selfish reasons, as well as to help you guys. I'm going to be ramping up my courses and programs again. And I'm looking to get as many people practicing these with me so that I can get some feedback. And you guys can tell me what's working for you, what's not working, what your aha moments are, what you want more of, what are really the things that are going on for you, so that I can develop the most effective programs and courses. And in a few months down the road, I'll be offering those more structured programs and courses. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to check Facebook and see if I can see if there's any questions on the live. Let's see. I'm going to stop the share here while I look at Facebook. So I can't see if there's any questions or comments on the live. And I'm not seeing anything on YouTube. I'm not seeing any questions in the Zoom chat either. So if you have questions and for whatever reason it's not getting through right now, you can send them to me on my email. Let me share that email again. I'll put it up on the screen. jenniferbountifulyoga@gmail.com. You can send me questions that way, and I will answer questions publicly. I won't say who asked the question, but I'll answer them publicly. I'll put them in the Facebook page. I'll put them in the group. And again, Soul Work Yoga and Wellness with Jennifer Houghton, a body wrapped up in a soul. Thank you all so much for joining me for this sciencey lecture. We're going to be doing experiential stuff for the rest of April, and I look forward to seeing you then. Namaste.